With the latest on the corporate front, all the market trends, expert opinion, and sound business advice. It is your unique window into the business world, direct from the heart of China.
Hello and welcome to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Coming up, we will have half an hour of business news and analysis. On today's show, China rolls out new policies to stabilize employment and drive economic growth. And we will also explore the new travel trends shaping this year's Labor Day holiday. What do they mean for the tourism industry? And now let's begin with our top story. China is stepping up efforts to stabilize employment, drive economic growth, and promote high-quality development. Senior Chinese officials have outlined a package of new policies to strengthen confidence in a complex global environment. Li Shuang has the details.
Amid rising trade protectionism, Chinese authorities are pledging targeted support for foreign trade and investment, ensuring precision in stabilizing growth and jobs.
In terms of stabilizing foreign trade development, key measures including providing targeted support through a one industry, one policy and one enterprise, one policy approach, helping export companies to mitigate risks.
Despite external challenges, China's economy expanded 5.4% year-on-year in the first quarter, outpacing last year's full-year growth rate and ranking among the highest globally. Officials say the performance bolsters confidence.
This performance shows China's strong ability to build certainty in a rapidly changing global environment. In the first quarter, domestic demand played an even bigger role in driving growth, with its contribution rising by 6.3 percentage points from the previous quarter.
Officials emphasize the importance of stable employment to overall economic stability, unveiling new measures to help job seekers. Policies will also encourage consumption in elderly care, child care, culture, and tourism, while boosting private investment and ensuring stock market and real estate market stability.
Most of these policies will take effect in the second quarter, with efforts to ensure greater consistency in policy direction. No matter how the international situation changes, China will stay focused on its development goals.
Officials stress that new measures will be fast-tracked directly to businesses and households, with a strong focus on practical results. As China faces a shifting global landscape, today's announcements signal a renewed focus on maintaining economic momentum and building a resilient future. Li Shuang, CGTN, Beijing.
So for more on this, join us on the line now are Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow with Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. So I will start with you. Despite the external challenges, China's economy expanded 5.4% in the first quarter. However, with the external uncertainties, including the U.S. tariff policy, what further steps will China take to stabilize the employment and the economy?
The Political Bureau meeting just held recently basically reiterated plans to accelerate debt issuance, and they pledged to ease monetary policy when needed. And they also vowed to support employer to safeguard jobs because of the trade war. And there's no new additional deficit spending that was announced other than the one that has already been approved in the National People's Congress back in March. So I think what it shows is that, for one, the policymakers believe that the current fiscal package it's in some ways sufficient at this point to weather through this external shock, but they do talk about accelerating the bond issuance and really to roll out the policy in a more efficient way. So as the new numbers, new evidence, new economic data would become available, then I think they would take further actions to see if more fiscal stimulus is needed. Because right now there's a lot of policies already in the pipeline. So I think the point is to really carry out this policy in a swift and efficient manner before new policy needs to be rolled out. And the monetary policy so far has remained still put no RR cuts or policy rates cut for the moment. And I think, again, it depends on how the economic situations evolve. I think, policymakers will remain vigilant and flexible to roll out the policies, especially when it comes to monetary policy. I think the concerns also is we need to stabilize the RMB, the yuan value, and also to protect the commercial banks' profit margin. So I think there's no significant cuts as of now, because as you mentioned, the first quarter data seem to suggest the economy is on a very solid footing. So I think more needs to be done if things, turn worse. But at the same time, I think the National Development and Reform Commission had also held a press conference on Monday. And I think that is very important because they signal the new measures in supporting employment to keep foreign trade stable, to promote consumption, and to expand effective investment, as well as foster a sound environment for development. So these 5 key areas will see enforced or strengthened measures to help weather through these shocks. I think the policymakers are really attentive to protect employment. So they would encourage businesses to maintain stable staffing levels. They would intensify vocational skill training, expand work relief programs, meaning that increase the unemployment insurance, and also strengthen public employment services. So I think all these are useful and effective ways to try to stabilize employment, as this part will be a tested, I think, area to watch out for.
And so, Dr. Zhou Mi, how do you view China's economic situation now, and how can China further optimize the fiscal and monetary policy tools to stimulate the real economy?
Well, we know that from the first quarter's data, it is pretty good compared with our expectations. I think that is, having something to do with China's development strengthens, and also we have some, the forecast about the possible impact from United States policies. So I think that some of the Chinese companies are trying to grasp the opportunities to import and export before the tariffs, launched for the 2nd of April. So they have trying to do something to face these kind of challenges. But this month, last month, the April, the Chinese companies and also the world companies are facing so many challenges and uncertainties. So I think that in this time, it is a really important time for us to consider about how can we continue the ways of doing businesses with our foreign partners, including United States, but not only limited to the United States trading partners. So we are trying to think about what we can do to improve the better resilience of the economy. I think that is also the reason why we are saying that, the central government is trying to work on the new situation and trying to find out what are the new situation and the policies we have to use to give our more certain and predictable environment for the enterprises. Even for the enterprises themselves, they have already seen that as a very big change. The change is not only for the challenges, but also for some of these new opportunities. So in this time, that is really quite an important time for us to adjust our policies, to use the resources to support some of the weaker part of this economy and trying to giving better support for the improvement and the more innovative ways or technology being used in this development of the trade. And on the other hand, I think it is still an important time for us to strengthen the domestic market, to improve the integration of the domestic market and trying to reduce the barriers for the different resources to flow in China. So there were several practices that we can find that is trying to open the market. It's not only open for the foreign direct investors, but also open to our Chinese domestic partners. I think that is really our kind of continued principles that we have carried out for the past maybe decades, that we were trying to work on the opening up based on the new situation. So the policies are important incentives for guiding the enterprises to do more and trying to better fit for the changes, but it's not just the enterprises, they can do it. So I mean that the government is trying to work with them to have a better forecast about the situation and trying to grasp the opportunities in such a changeable world.
And Dr. Zhou Mi, so what impact will increasing the unemployment insurance funds and also enhancing the domestic and international trade integration have on alleviating those corporate burdens and also protecting workers' livelihood?
Well, we know that insurance is a kind of financial tools that we can, use less money to have a better assurance about the development. So for the workers, for the employers, I think that all of them are trying to find a better abilities to adapt to the changes. So the policies are widely used in different countries, and I think that is not only limited in certain categories of the insurance, but it's also trying to give a better assurance about what we can do, have a balanced way of the development. Maybe the world is facing, different possibilities. In the past, a lot of insurance are covering about the payment of these goods, like when we are selling some products to our foreign customers, whether we are able to get the money back is not so guaranteed. So we can buy some insurance, and we can be sure that we can have the money even if there was some default by the other partners. The companies will pay that for us. And now I think that is not only about that transaction; it's about the development, about the sustainabilities of the business and the supply chains. So we are seeing so many reconstruction of the global supply chain, and that is really bring us more risks because we have to continue with the businesses after several rounds of the transactions. So when we are starting to diversify the supply chains, there will be a lot of uncertainties. So with the help of the financial companies and also some support of the financial tools, I think the companies will be less exposed to those risks, and it's really helpful for them to make a longer term sustainable development.
And yeah, so boosting domestic consumption, especially the services consumption, is a focus for China. So what do you think can be done on this front?
So service consumption, it's a very important pillar of the total consumption. And, we in China still has a very large room to improve the service consumption. So in terms of service consumption, China has only about, 50% of the GDP in terms of the size. But in many of the advanced economies, service consumption is over 70% of the GDP. So there's still very large room to improve service consumption. And so that means, things like healthcare, education, and tourism and elderly care, childcare, you name it. And these are not only important, as part of the living standards, right? I think these are means by themselves. People want to enjoy better consumption of services, better quality of services that would really help to enhance their life experiences. But at the same time, as I just mentioned, this is also a very large untapped market that China is able to improve in terms of the supply of good quality services, and at the same time encourage more consumption of services. So this is a new opportunity to really boost domestic consumption demand. And I also wanted to add that, as May the 1st is arriving, we're seeing really rising interest and also plans of domestic travel and even, outbound travel by Chinese residents. So I think that presents a good opportunity to really improve the service industry, right? The tourism, hospitality, transportation, and so on and so forth. So I think that would help to boost the economy. Not to mention, the service sector is a big employer. In China, tourism industry alone, it produces 6 trillion yuan in terms of the GDP, but it also provides 80 million jobs. Now, I think there's still a very large room for the service sector to expand. Many countries, their service sector, it's at least 1 to 2% of GDP. China is not there as much. So I think if we can continue to boost service consumption, providing more good quality services and also provide subsidies to service consumption and increase investment in the service sector, I think all of this will help to boost the sector. from both the supply side and from the demand side.
And Dr. Zhou Mi, so in terms of creating a favorable environment for stable development, China will continue to manage the capital markets and consolidate the stable growth of the real estate market. So what kind of moves do you anticipate from the governments, and what's the aim of it?
Well, I think that in the recent years that the Chinese government are paying more attention on the capital market, that the government is sending very strong signal that we have to stabilize the stock market because it's one of the very important channels for the people, for the household to keep their money. I think that naturally we can understand the capital market is an important place for the companies to collect the money from the market, and they can have a better ability to adapt to the new changes. So in the recent years, that Chinese government is trying to give more support for the, especially for the small and medium-sized enterprises, and also some companies in the leading areas like the artificial intelligence or other leading technologies. So it is important for us to keep it active because the stock market is a real important signal we can find to identify which companies are having a better performance, and they can also use that to attract the possible or potential investors. So for the government, I think it's a really important thing if you are looking at the fact that many of the state-owned or state-related the capitals has entered the stock market and trying to stabilize that. So it's not only about the short term of the development of those market, but trying to give it a stronger and more abundant enough capital to support the development of the market. Well, in this regard, I would say it's not only about the companies that already listed in the stock market. We are going to support more companies to use that as a more innovative way, because it's not only about the companies. They are also a place to have a better innovative ways about the financial products and some of these derivatives financial products. As for the real estate, I think that the main focus is trying to recover from the previous shocks. I think it's not only about to deal with the problems of the stocks, the houses. We're going to support the developers to trying to meet the demand of these customers and also the companies to build some better qualities and more diversified apartments and also the businesses houses. I think it's really important for us to have a better enjoyment of these houses, because it's one of a very important consumption, and at the same time it's also an important thing to support the development of the businesses. So for the real estate, I think that after the stabilization, we are going to support it to be more dynamic and trying to give the developers better support to make the market reactive again.
And yeah, China also attaches great importance to the development of artificial intelligence and want to secure a competitive edge in AI. So what advantage does China have in the AI technology and applications?
Well, I think China has many advantages. I think right now, US and China are basically the two leading countries when it comes to AI innovation in terms of technological development. And I think China has very unique advantages, and that is really, in a way, optimized by DeepSeek's launch. And of course, China doesn't just have DeepSeek. There are many companies, startups, and also the more traditional tech companies like Alibaba, ByteDance, Tencent. They all have their own, AI models. They're very competitive. So I think in terms of the advantages, well, China has built a very complete ecosystem of the AI industry. So going from the upstream, we have a lot of the AI talents, right? The engineers, the science, technology professionals, and technical, professionals. And so with all these large amount of the talent pool, I think it really helped to streamline the AI development. And second is that China has really a very large market for these AI products. And China is able to make the AI development very affordable and also open sourced. And what that means is that AI technology can be integrated into many industries, for example, robotics, for example, self-driving cars, and services sector as well. So I think, with all these very widespread application of the AI technology, it could help to boost productivity. It could really help to bring the benefit of using AI as a general purpose technology. And third, I think it's important that, the government has been pushing forward the development of AI. The policy support is very clear. We know that President Xi just visited in Shanghai some of the AI companies. And so I think that really sends very clear signal that the government will continue to support both in terms of policies, but also in terms of some of the investment guided investment funds, and also other personnel and other policy supports. And so I think that is very important to instill the confidence to the AI the developers and the industry. And last but not the least, as I mentioned, that there are all these other I would say related industries. They're helping and supporting AI development. So, for example, China has really a very cost-effective energies, right, when it comes to renewable energy production and utilization. So China is able to use the affordable energy to continue to support AI model development, because that is a very energy intensive undertaking. China has developed a 5G network, so very fast internet. China has large amount of data that can be used for AI training. China also has a lot of these iCloud, the cloud services. So all of these, I think, would be helpful to support the entire AI ecosystem. And last but not least, I just wanted to make one last point, is that China's market is very vast. Many of consumers, industries, they really desire, the AI to be integrated into their daily lives and also into their products. Talking about, self-driving cars, for example, many of the car makers, the NEV makers are integrating AI in their various industries. So what that means is that with all this demand, it really helps to increase the market size, the economy of scale. And so that will continue to really galvanize the development of AI in China.
Well, we're speaking with Dr. Zhou Mi from the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. And after a short break, we'll take a look at the new travel trends shaping this year's holiday season. Stay with us. You're listening to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Over the 5-day Labor Day holiday, China's tourism market is gearing up for a major surge. Leading travel platform Ctrip reported a weekly 100% rise in domestic hotel bookings. Meanwhile, the domestic flight bookings have jumped nearly 23%, which is led by popular routes to southwest cities such as Xishuangbanna, Lijiang, and Lhasa. Cross-border flight bookings rose by 24% from last year, with Japan, South Korea, and Southeast Asia being the top destinations. So yeah, I will start with you. So talking about the Labor Day holiday tourism market, what is driving the surging numbers?
Well, I think, again, coming from, COVID, there has been a dip in the China's tourism industry. Now that I think that has been the past, I think, Chinese residents are gearing up. They're going to take advantage of the long holidays and they're going to travel around. It also shows that, with the GDP growth last year, disposable income growth last year, I think it helped to support, right, in terms of the budgets, in terms of the finances, that people have the money to spend. And as we mentioned earlier, tourism is part of the important, consumption of services. So I think people like to experience, in different cultures, different localities, different food. They like the travel experiences. And I also think that signals that despite all the external shocks and whatnot, I think the Chinese consumers still have the confidence. They're still willing to spend money, right, to enhance their life experiences, to be able to travel. So, in this year, actually, it's really a surge. It's a 3-year hike since the post-COVID era. the post-COVID period, I should say. And so that really indicate a very strong return to domestic and also outbound travels by the Chinese residents.
And Zhou Mi, so booking to Japan, South Korea, and Southeast Asia are top choices for Chinese travelers. So why are these countries and regions so hot for China's outbound tourism?
Well, first of all, I think that the reason is that they are very near to China, so the people do not have to travel too much time to go there. And second, I think that the world is under a lot of pressure by the, Donald Trump's practices on the tariffs. That people are not so willing to go that far, especially to the North America in the recent days. So they choose these countries because they do have a better opportunities to go there. While if you're looking at the air tickets, they are not that expensive. I think that it is also because of those governments are trying to attract the Chinese tourists, so they have using the visa, the policies to easing the cost and the procedures of applying the visas. So actually, the tourists do have their intentions to go there. Where when they are seeing that the relations, I mean the trade relations and also the investment relations are getting tighter, people are willing to go there because it's not only just for the sightseeing. Some of them are going to look at whether there are some opportunities they can do businesses. So for the business persons, they're also using this opportunity to go there. Well, I think it's not only about the one directions. If you are looking at the data in the first seasons, we are seeing that the inbound the travelers, I mean the tourists have increased more than almost 100% compared with last year. So it is really two-way exchanges of the cultures, of the experiences, and they are willing to enjoy the differences about the culture and also to look at the other countries. So in this regard, I would say that they are using this 5 days of holidays to go to the other sides, to trying to look at whether there will be some very interesting places and very interesting cultures.
Well, we are speaking with Dr. Zhou Mi from the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Thank you so much for listening.